just started?
Yeah.
Mm.
Heads up, I'm starting the stream.
Oh, thanks for
Okay.
We're doing a thing?
We're doing a thing.
Basic JavaScript?
Basic JavaScript!
Cool.
We should make sure audio is doing things. Hello? Cool. Yeah. So we have HTML, we have CSS. Would you like if I did this? Does that make sense? And then you can like go between these things.
I liked it the other way better because I can
See all the things?
I like having a full page and then just switching between them.
Okay.
I think so. We would put it back on.
Okay, so HTML and CSS is more or less it is everything that the browser shows you. So JavaScript, you don't see JavaScript, you see what JavaScript does to the HTML and the CSS.
Okay.
So we'll go here first because W3 is pretty good place to start. JavaScript tutorial. So a little bit of like things that you don't really need to know but are kind of interesting is that JavaScript has a compiler called V8. Should have had a V8. Let me turn up my gain. Where's it? Hell. This way. Let's see. How's that? Still effing quiet. Let's go again. Let's go again. Okay, so we're gonna put that there. Put this here. Is this too much in your way?
Nope. Not at all.
It's still kind of in your face. Let's go my way a little. Okay. JavaScript. Oh, and I need to mute this or it's going to be all sorts of wonky. So V8 engine basically takes JavaScript and compiles it down to like low level C and eventually assembly. So that means you can actually run JavaScript like ridiculously fast considering that it is I think technically an interpreted language, which is stuff that you don't really care about right now. We'll get to it later. So let's just kind of dump into it and see what happens. So we have a little W3, and it's like, click me to display date and time. And every time you click it, it'll give you the new thing. So, sure. We'll start here. And pass the keyboard and the mouse. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat. And away we go.
What am I doing?
So if you look at the little button, button is its own type of HTML.
So you're saying add a button.
Well, I'm kind of explaining to you a little bit about what that JavaScript-y part of this is.
Yes, but this JavaScript-y part is saying put a button in.
So
or is it saying call this a button? What is that?
Okay, so that is the HTML button.
Okay.
That is
it makes
yep,
one of these things.
Exactly. The on click is where it's JavaScript-y.
So once you click it?
So basically when it's on click, whenever the click happens, whenever the person clicks on it, it fires an event.
It's going to do this.
Yes, it's going to do that thing.
And that thing is the state.
Right. So we can do a number of things, but let's just grab that whole line. Yep. And we'll put it in the code.
Last questions.
So, find a good spot in our HTML mess.
A good spot, huh?
Feel like we could like make a random
index?
number generator.
You're saying do it in the
It needs to be in the body, yes. In the body of the HTML. So we could put it at the end. Control V. Tab it out.
Oof, how do I even?
If you here's a cute little thing. So grab your mouse or shift, go down, and then tab. Oh, I guess it didn't actually work. Okay, well. Now go down.
Was I supposed to shift it all
Yeah,
together?
yeah, but that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll just tab.
I wondered why I had to select the whole thing just to tab it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we said create a button, and when we click on that button, grab the date. Click me to display date time. Oh, and that is just the text that it shows you?
Yep. That's the text of the button.
Should I enter that over?
Yeah, probably, because OCD. So if you save this, you're going to see a nice button. And you're going to go to the page. And there you go. Refresh. There's going to be that button, and you can click it. And it's not going to do anything.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So what's happening is we're searching the document, basically meaning the whole page, and we're getting the element by ID of demo.
And we didn't put any of that
We don't have a demo. And once we find that, we're going to set the inner HTML property of that element to the newest date.
Okay, do we care about adding a date to this?
No, but
we're just doing it to say we did it?
Yeah.
To say we could do it?
Right.
Cool. Alright, so first we need to set a demo?
We need to create a basically any HTML element with a ID of demo, but we could just make a div. So let's do underneath this button, div, and then trying to remember. You got an extra alligator boy.
They just sneak in there.
Yeah, it does some auto things, and you should probably stop doing both the alligators at the same time, and it would be a lot nicer to you.
But I like doing them at the same time.
You can. You're just going to have to kill an innocent alligator every time you use the autocorrect.
I mean...
Death to alligators!
It doesn't have adorable eyes to stare at me and guilt trip me when I murder it.
That's... Anyways, so on that note...
Maybe if I, gave it some eyes and then I had to murder the alligator, that would be sad. Oh, yeah, I'm kind of sad. Murder this alligator.
We're gonna have to give it an ID. So technically speaking, you don't actually have to close this div because we're not putting anything inside of it.
I don't even have to close it?
Nope. Well, you don't have to have a closing tag. You do have to close it. Murder the goddamn alligators.
Wait, I'm going up inside it like that?
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna do the space slash. Right, and then you can get rid of this one because that ends it. Remember? So that's like a. Right, and then do a. Oh, might not like that. Do a quick save. See if it's mad. Do a inspect. Control Shift I. Oh. Oh, no. That's fine. Okay. Whatever. It's being grumpy.
What
Mr.
is that?
Grumpy
And why
Gills.
is it fine?
Oh, hey, guess what? We are... we
Oh.
should remove some of the stuff because you can't see anything we're doing right now on the webpage.
Yeah, you guys didn't even see our pretty button. Okay, how do I move us? We could be over there.
We
if we move
could.
us to right there.
Okay, let's go to OBS.
Except then you might not be able to see what I'm working on down at the bottom of the other thing. Yeah, doesn't want to move.
Yeah, I don't think we can move it midstream. So...
Right. Well, there is a button down below Cute Doggo.
You're going to have to believe us. Go ahead and grab this code and let's just move it up. Like, move it up above the hello world.
Let's see. Where is hello world?
Up here. Up there.
Okay, so move it right there.
Sure. And then... to shrink the window capture in OBS. I don't think we can shrink it while it's streaming. Unfortunately. Unless I'm just stupid, which we already knew that. Shift up, up, up. Okay, tab. Cool. Save. Go back to the page and let's make sure we can show off our awesome stuff and things. Look, there's a button. Cool.
Beautiful.
Let me click on this page so that I can see chat. Behind the page. There we go. Perf. You are, but we still love you. Oh, okay. Alright. So let's go back to the code and actually have a demo ID. So in the div, one of the ways that you can do it is you can do ID equals, but I also think you can just do hash. So demo. I believe that is the same as saying ID equal quotes demo. Not positive. So we should probably we should probably check that. There's probably a terrible idea somewhere. So click it. Refresh and then click it. Oh. Well. So I apparently have no idea what I'm talking about, and let's say ID is equal to demo.
Okay.
ID equals quotes around the demo. And then we could save that. And then go back to here, refresh. And then let's go again. Woo! We did a thing!
We did a thing, but it destroyed...
yeah, it destroyed a lot of things. I'm not entirely sure why. It might have to do with the closing thing. Yeah, so the hash is for the CSS selectors. So if we want to do... if we want to get an element by ID, you use a hash instead of a dot. So in CSS,
what are you pointing at?
So CSS,
okay, CSS,
remember,
we use this dot
we use the dot to find class.
Okay.
If you want to find something by ID, you use the hash there. So,
so I do hash. Oh, that's why you were saying use hash demo.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure there is like a plugin somewhere that will do that for you. I swear I've used it somewhere. It might have been in Angular because they have like their own templating weirdness built around it, but I can't remember exactly. So let's do the div right, I guess, and remove the slash and add a real closing tag. See? No extra alligator. You didn't have to murder an alligator.
My murderous ways are superior. Hi.
Hi. So save this. Okay, and then refresh, and then click it, and it shouldn't blow up. Yeah, it didn't blow up this time.
Cool.
So JavaScript basically is, hey, go get the element. I want you to set the inner HTML to the new, whatever the current date is, basically.
Okay.
So we can...
and where is it pulling this date from?
So that's special JavaScript-y things. There's like some built-in libraries. Date is one of them. So basically anytime you're looking for time or any like time, math, randomness, like they're all built into the language, so you don't really have to deal with it. You just say, hey, I want this stuff, and it does it for you. Cool. JavaScript is literally the language that gets out of the way more than any other programming language in the world. And there's a reason, like, I love JavaScript for that reason. There's a lot of things that are stupid and terrible. So, like, it's not a perfect wall. Yeah, like, pros and cons to everything, especially in the programming world. So, all that being said, let's play with some more JavaScript. Because, one tiny little thing inside of a button event listener isn't quite... Yeah. So let's go back to the web. And we'll scroll down. There's all sorts of stuff that you should do. La-di-da-di-da. That's not important because you have me to sell you JavaScript. So let's just do like a JavaScript. Wow, this looks like a real pain in the butt. Okay. So, new plan. Okay, let's go back to the code. We're going to make a counter.
What's it going to count?
Numbers. Do you count anything else?
Sometimes I count puppy dogs or apples or fingers.
So do you say I have 2 thumbs worth of puppy dogs? I have as many puppy dogs as I have thumbs.
Yeah. I say that to myself every day, just to make sure that both puppies and both thumbs are there. Every morning.
Tragically lost this thumb. Puppy is not long for this world.
Baby, it's okay to kill alligators. Leave the puppy dogs alone.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're going to add a script tag. That's going to go in the head, maybe?
In this head?
Yeah, I think so.
Inside of it?
Yeah, so below the title. No. Inside of it as an element. So, go up one. Nope.
What?
So it's going to be inside the head.
Oh, that's
tag.
the end.
Yep.
Okay. Hi.
So you can stick it all the way
here?
up in the top, yeah.
Like
or
that?
you can stick it below.
Okay.
And then you're going to do a script. So, alligator script. Yep. And then you're going to close it, and it's going to close it for you because it's great. And then this is telling the browser and everybody else, this is JavaScript. Okay. Don't try to do it as HTML. Don't try to render this. This is
JavaScript.
Right.
So script means JavaScript?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's technically other things you can do, maybe, but... Carson's Paco comment. There. Paco!
Shout out.
Oh, shout out to the puppy dog, puppy cam.
Alright.
There's some points right there. Okay, so we're going to make a variable. Variables are something in programming that you're basically storing information in. Your name, where you live, your dogs, like those are all pieces of information. Computational theory is like very broad in what this kind of means. So, you know, trying to keep things more or less at the ground level, like, we're just going to make a number. So you could call it num. And I think we have to call it a var.
Var equals?
Yeah, because we're in ES5 land. So var space num equals space 0. And you should probably semicolon, but it's not completely necessary, but it's a necessary and basically
semicolon when?
right there. And I would add a space after the equal sign, or before the equal sign, not because it's necessary, but because, like,
prettiness.
Yeah.
Keeping things.
So this is you know, very basic understanding of, we have a 0 that we are going to assign to, you know, some memory somewhere, but basically you're looking at it as something that you can play with as the programmer. So we have a num, and then what we're going to do is let's do this. Come down to line 19, and instead of equals date, we're going to say plus plus num.
So get rid of the equals as well?
No, the equals needs to be there.
Okay, just get rid of date.
Right. So I think this will work because the way Javascript does scoping, it's kind of another discussion. But
so now when we click it, it should display 0.
It should display 1 technically, because what we're doing, this plus plus is an operator, and what we're saying is add 1. It basically, the way that it works, plus plus num or num plus plus, is num equals num plus 1. So iterate. The thing that's different is, do you assign it before you iterate, or do you iterate before you assign? So those are some words. So I will explain them. So right now, if you click on this, it is going to set the value of num to 1, and then it's going to set this document get element by id dot inner html. Okay, and then if you do num plus plus, it's going to set the document get element by id and then set your variable num. So realistically, I should probably stop saying this, and I should probably just say num equals num plus 1. But that might lead us into functions, and I wasn't quite ready to get to there right this second. So let's just see what happens. So save it, and
what did I hit?
Not S.
Nope, I think it was like W or something.
Well, you probably closed it, so it's still there though. So just drag the thing.
This?
Yep.
Now
Farther. There you go. Now save it. Okay, now come. Yep, there. So if you refresh, it still says that. Now it says 1. So if you click it again, it should be 2. Like that.
Okay.
So, to kind of make things a little bit cleaner, instead of doing all that stuff inside of the callback, we're going to make what's called a function. Functions are also very, very basic, like, programming things, and it's built around do this thing for me. So basically, I'm going to give you a set of instructions, you know, stand up, turn left, put the dog down. Like, that can be a set, that could be your function. Or it could be give Paco snuggles. And the snuggles are, you know, give head pets, make sure to give treats, and that's, you know, snuggles. So, going back to the code, we're going to define a function inside of our script tags. So below that, function, we'll call it set demo. It all needs to be one word. So set, capital D, demo is this is like what most people, if you can't hear us, you probably need to unmute, because as far as I can tell, everyone else can hear us. Yes? Okay, Misty can hear us, so everyone else doesn't know what they're talking about, obviously. So we have function, and we can do some stuff with it and give it things, but we're gonna not worry about that right this second and kind of just go through it. To define a function, you give it parens, which are curvy boys. Yeah. So you have a set of curvy boys, and then after the curvy boys, you go right one, you have your curly boys. And that defines, and inside of your curly boys is what you want to happen every time you tell the computer to do the set demo thing.
Okay, every time we say you do set demo, then do curly boys.
Yep. So you can enter. And we're going to do the document.get element by ID. You can probably just copy this stuff from down here, line 22.
This right here?
Yeah, but we don't want the...
parentheses?
Yeah. So just get...
How much do you want?
Just get the whole thing, and then we'll manipulate it from there.
Right there?
Yep, so cut.
Copy or cut?
Cut. And stick it up on line 7.
Should I get rid of the parentheses wherever? Right
so in the parentheses, we're going to invoke, is the correct terminology, set demo. So basically, you're going to use, the name that you created, but you have to, so that's, right now, that's referring to the function. Mm-hmm. This may work because of the way JavaScript handles click listeners, but
let's not make it work harder than it needs to. Let's finish what we're doing up here.
Well, you need to add curvy boys.
Down here?
Yep. Because what you're saying, like right now, it's like, hey, there's this function I know about, and it does stuff and things. And
wait, curvy boys there or there? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Where we set it up.
Yep.
That makes more sense.
So you have an extra curvy boy.
I just really like throwing in extra.
Okay. So, without the curvy boys, it's like, hey, I know this guy, this function, he does this stuff real cool, and it's like, yeah, like we all know about this guy now. Whereas when you add your curvy boys, it's like, hey, guy, go do your thing, like do this stuff. So it's difference between like a name and a like action. Okay. So right now, technically speaking, this is going to work, but I want to try to clear up some of the weirdness that we had earlier. So go add a new line on line 6. Go down, and we're going to say num equals num plus 1. And I would put spaces around it because OCD. So this is doing a kind of exactly what it sounds like. You're setting the number variable to whatever the number variable is currently plus 1. So we start at 0, so 0 plus 1, yep. And so now you can remove the plus plus num on line 8, and it'll be a little cleaner.
So do we need this
you
inner
need
HTML?
Okay, so
what am I getting rid of?
You're getting rid of the plus plus, but you got to remember that, like, we're setting with num, we're telling this element, your inner HTML, we want your HTML to say this stuff. So if we don't have this equal sign there, it's just like, hey, there's this, element. It's got some inner HTML. Cool. Like that. That's nice. Versus, there's this element, and I want you to be this thing.
Okay.
So
we're saying be num, and num is num plus 1.
Right. And so one of the things we could potentially do is actually move the num equals num plus 1 below it if we want to see the num equals to 0 at the beginning. And then what would happen is that whatever is displayed is actually going to be a step behind what the num's actual value is. Does that make sense? So
it's going to be one less than how many times you actually clicked it.
Yes. Okay. But it's important to think about the logic because there are use cases where I want you to do this thing first and then, then go change things. So you just have to think of, whenever I set this HTML stuff, whenever I set it to the variable, then it doesn't matter what happens to the variable afterwards because it's whatever the current value is, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some rules that are going to break this eventually, but right now we're doing simplistic things. So you can save that and we can play with it. So refresh. And it works again.
Cool.
So maybe here's an idea. We could make a countdown timer to our wedding, which we don't actually know the time of, so we'd have to BS it.
So a fake countdown timer.
A fake countdown timer. So let's make a real count up timer, and then we'll turn it into a countdown timer. So, okay. So one of the things that we can do is JavaScript has a very fancy set of functions called set interval and set timeout. These are not something that we're probably going to get into too hard because they still work fine and dandy, but there's usually better ways to do what you want.
Okay.
So add a new line and type set interval.
Do I need to go in?
Nope, exactly right here.
And am I doing alligators?
SET, nope, set in capital I interval.
Okay.
And then curvy boys. So, and if you can see, we have a nice little thing. So set interval is on some interval, I want you to call some function. So we have a handler, and that handler is when, on the trigger, what do you want me to call? The function you want me to do stuff with. So we can put set demo in here.
Inside of it?
Uh-huh. I don't believe so.
No?
Because we're
telling... just calling that...
Yeah, because we're not invoking it. We're telling, hey, you're another function. You've said that you're gonna call this other function whenever this interval happens. So this other function lives over here. I'm not gonna tell you to call him. I'm just letting you know this is the guy, okay. Right? And then comma, a timeout, and we'll say 1,000 because I think it's in milliseconds.
Could be wrong. Or just zeros?
Zeros. Don't ever put commas inside of numbers.
Because commas mean things.
Yeah. Okay, so we went from, a function with, just normal curvy boys. Mm-hmm. And then we have another function that's defined somewhere else with another set of curvy boys, and it takes something called parameters. That's what these things are, is I need data handed to me to do whatever my job is. So you could say, go do the work. I'd be like, well, what work? I don't know what you're talking about. And you can say, oh, go do the kitchen work. Oh, I know what kitchen work needs to be done. I'll go do that. So that's kind of what's happening at a very high level. Not super important to be perfect about it, but here we are. So that should work. And if we hit save, we should see a self incrementer. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we could do this for like a long time before JavaScript has an integer overflow. It'd actually probably be like, well, I don't know. It depends a lot if it's a 32 or 64. We're talking like billions, if not more years. So, now, technically speaking, if you click the set demo right now, it's actually going to increment it so you can make time go faster. But that's kind of another problem. So, to make a countdown timer, we're going to figure out how much time is between, we'll just say now and a year.
Okay.
So in JavaScript, we're gonna start diving into more docky things. Not necessarily this is a great way to do it, but you're gonna have to learn how to Google all these things at some point in time. So let's go back to the browser and go to your editor.
What?
Sure, pick one, and we're going to I think what we have to do is just pass into the date, but actually, yeah, go back to the tab to the left. Date up to. Try that. Okay, so year, month, day. Okay, date string. So let's do this. Let's go back to the code. And I'm going to teach you about logging. Logging's so important. And literally there's like a inordinate amount of people who don't use, well, I am a part of this people at some point in time, depending on complexities. But in JavaScript, the logger is like really, really nice and easy to use compared to some of the languages in the way that it deals with objects and things. So it's primarily used for debugging instead of an actual debugger with all sorts of other tools. So I'm going to teach you the wrong way how to do that, apparently. So, above, let's make a new variable. We'll call it wedding date. So
right.
Up above by num, either above it or below it.
This num?
Yep. We're going to make a new variable, and we'll call it wedding date. Okay. So we're going to set that equal to a new date. Now this is a kind of another level of weirdness, and it's kind of like a function, so think about it like a function for now. We'll get into it in my kind of detest for object orientation. Well, maybe not for object orientation, but the overuse of object orientation. So new space capital D date, and then we're going to pass in a string. So you're going to give it some curvy boys, and then do either quotes or single or double quotes, and then let's see, 09 / we'll say 22 / 2020, and then do a semicolon at the end of that line, the end of the line.
There?
Yep. And then hit enter, and then console.log. And then curvy boy, wedding date. One of the things I like to do when we're in this situation is, so this is going to print wedding date, but if something is wrong and wedding date is undefined or there's some other weirdness, it won't behave exactly the way you would expect. So
it's like an indicator of...
Yeah, so if add a semicolon real quick, and then normal there, and then go to the beginning of the first curvy boy. Okay, and then to the right, because we're what we're going to do is we're going to pass console.log multiple arguments, and there goes our doggos. So parens, or not parens, quote, sorry, ASDF or date or whatever you want to call it, just something.
What am I calling?
So this is just something.
ASDF?
Yeah, just whatever. This is something for you as a programmer when you're trying to look through the log to. If you put ASDF in here, it will always 100% print ASDF, and then it might print, say, something else for what wedding date actually is.
But what is ASDF? Is it just random letters I
Yes.
put in there to remember?
Right.
So I could have called it toothpicks.
Yeah, you could have named it anything.
Okay.
But so some of the weirdness, one of the weird things that JavaScript does is if wedding date is undefined. You know what? Let's, instead of talking about this, let's actually just show it. So console.log wedding date. Just remove all the things that you just did. Not all the things, just the ASDF things.
This right
Yep.
here.
So delete. Do one delete, get rid of the space. Okay, save. Now go to, refresh. Okay, so in the console over here, you can see Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. Cool, we have a thing. So if you go back to the code, and right before the equal sign on wedding date, so, right there, do a //. So that is a comment. What that tells the computer is don't do anything beyond this. This is for the programmer, not for the computer.
Yeah.
So if you refresh, it tells you undefined. And depending on different configurations and things, it may not necessarily tell you anything. It will just not print. So if you go back to here, and if you add any arbitrary string set of data before, then you can know that, and especially if you have like multiples of these, it's a lot easier to keep track of what you're talking about. It will always print.
What? Sorry, but just go through like.
So I think if it's this way, if we set wedding date equal to null, we refresh.
What are you trying to do?
It's because the log not working. Okay, so right now we have something that's telling us null. Where the wedding date variable is null because surprise, we set it to null. So basically, my argument is it's almost always worth putting a something here, because if you put something there, no matter the value of wedding date, the thing you're trying to show, it will always print, because it's going to print the first thing, and you're going to see the first thing, and then it'll print the second thing. So if we refresh, it will be something null. So usually what I do is do some arbitrary set of characters and then colon space. So if this ends up being like a 0, then it's like something is 0. When you could, realistically, what you probably should do is just make it the variable name. And then as a programmer, oh yeah, my wedding date is 0. Yeah, we already knew that because it showed us here, but, that's not really important, or not there, but kind of understanding, maybe.
Yeah. So in order to make sure that wedding date up there where you're at is working correctly, you put a thing down there saying wedding date, and it's going to print wedding date, and so it's also going to print what that. So in order to always see what this is, you put this here to say, no matter even if things messed up, I still want you to tell me what this is.
Right.
Because you're printing this, so you're going to print what that means.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll refer to kind of data types maybe for a second here, because I don't think we really have enough time to do the rest of this. So that will end up as episode 5. There's a couple different data types. In JavaScript, there's 4 or 5. There are numbers. There are strings. There are objects. And there are arrays. So, am I missing one? There might be booleans. Yeah, booleans kind of I don't know. It's important and used in a lot of other places, but JavaScript has very few types of what different types the datas are. Like in C and other languages, you have to say, this is a integer, or this is a floating point number, like a decimal number, or this is pi, or there's all sorts of
you have to
weird.
Tell it what kind of variable it's looking at.
Right. So in JavaScript, it's called a not strongly typed. It's not a strongly typed language, which means that you kind of just let it do stuff and things. You can technically add numbers and strings together, which JavaScript says, oh, you want me to take this number and append it to this string. I'm sure we can go into this a little bit more later, not necessarily super important right now. But you can do different operations with them, and it's important to keep track of what you're dealing with because it may have unintended consequences. So there's a great little video on YouTube that I probably shouldn't go try to find because YouTube inside of YouTube is a bad idea. So that kind of walks through some of the really weird stuff that happens with JavaScript, where you add, different things together. So the reason that I was talking about that was because we're going to get this date. This date is an object. It has a bunch of different things associated with it. Some things are functions, some things are pieces of information, data, variables. And we have to be able to manipulate it so that we can create a countdown. We honestly may be able to take 2 dates and minus them by each other. I betcha that works. Because JavaScript. Let's YOLO it. So make a new variable. We'll pass the keyboard back and name it today. Equals new date and curvy voice. Nothing inside of it. JavaScript, when you with new date, it defaults to right now. So do a semicolon at the end, and then console.log wedding date. So go down to line 8. Sorry. So do wedding date minus today.
You're saying this blue one?
Yeah. And save that, and let's see if that just freaking works. It probably will, because JavaScript is amazing and terrifying all at the same time. So that is a number. Copy that number. Double click. Okay, you're gonna have to. Oh, there you go. Copy. Open a new tab, or use one of the existing tabs, and then do seconds to months, maybe. So hit enter and paste it into there.
A lot of months.
Yeah, so that is milliseconds then. So delete 3 characters. So 3 backspaces. 1, 2, 3. So 12.5 months. So this is kind of going into something a little bit off the side a little bit. So there's something called the Epoch. And in 1970, all the computer scientists and all the computers got together and said, hey, we need to be able to track time really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, technically I believe this happened after, but a bunch of people got together and said, hey, we need to be able to track time really good. And so they came out and said, okay, January 1st, 1970, that is the beginning of time. That is 0.
Okay.
And for every millisecond from that point in time to now is, our current time. There are actually some real potential problems with this because, the whole Y2K thing that everybody freaked out about, oh no, the computers aren't going to be able to roll over the 1999 to 2000. Yeah, that was a really smart movement right there. That actually will be potentially a problem with systems at 2034 because they're going to hit their max computer size limit and then have to try to roll over their 32-bit time. So that's kind of this random thing that's not super important to remember, but we are migrating to solve some of these problems. Most of the big systems are already converted to 64-bit time, which basically will measure till the heat death of the universe. So that's nice. Anyways.
Then we have to come up with a new solution.
Yeah. Heat death of the universe is a new solution.
Hi.
Hi. So if we go back to the code, we have a set of milliseconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to change set demo. So let's go and delete lines left 10 and 11 because we don't care about num. You could actually probably delete num now, honestly.
10 and 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just delete it all?
Just delete that two lines. Yeah. And then okay.
What? You want stuff there?
Yeah, undo it because we'll leave the selector stuff there. Because we're gonna still use the get element by ID, so just delete line 10, I guess. Because I'm really smart and I know what I'm doing. Okay, so let's make a new variable.
Right
We'll
there
call,
or up by the variables?
Right here. We'll call it var time to wedding or something. And then that equals the wedding date minus today. And then on line 11, let's set the inner HTML of our element to time to wedding. So if you just remove,
So you're saying inside there? Right there?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Okay, save that. And if I'm correct, we should see a big number counting down. Or not.
There is a big number. I don't know.
Oh, duh. Okay. So, instead of saying today, basically, okay, the way this works is we're setting today equal to the point in time when we refresh the page, when the page first loads. And then we call the demo, and it's just like, oh yeah, the page time when it loaded was still this time, so it's always going to be that number minus this other static number, so it's never going to change. So what we can do is move line 5 into the set demo function, because what needs to happen is every time that we call the set demo,
like there?
No, do an extra line. I mean, technically we could pass it in. We're not going to do that. Okay. But if you think about it, this set of instructions saying, hey, go get the newest date, whatever time now is, which could be in 10 seconds in the future, 11 seconds, 12, because we're going to call it every single second for eternity, basically, right now. Go get that. And then we're going to take the wedding date that we have set, which is September 22nd, 2020. And then we are going to find the difference between those two. Okay. So if you save that, go back to the code, refresh the page, and...
We broke something.
Today is not defined. Go back. Var today equals... Here's today. Remove line 8. It's mad at us because we're trying to log something that doesn't...
All of line 8?
Yeah, the whole thing. And I get rid of line 6 while you're at it. Okay. So that should work. Save. And then refresh. We has a number! And it's counting down! So when this number hits 0, we're getting married.
This number that basically, I mean, it has a meaning, but just looking at it is meaningless right now.
And technically, right now, it actually won't hit 0. It will hit the negatives before, most likely. Yeah. Because it's incrementing on... It's incrementing on the whole number, or the whole second, whereas we're displaying all the milliseconds.
Okay.
So, I think it's 7 o'clock, so that's what we'll call for tonight. Next episode, we'll do more date things, maybe.
Sweet.
Maybe. I don't know. So, yeah.
We have a number.
Thanks for joining the stream, and if you have questions, no one's put them in the comments, so I'll assume everyone knows everything. Okay, bye!